A former teacher turned satirist says Stafford School's policies are a, quote, free layup to fix if leaders will listen. Hello and welcome to the Potomac Local News Podcast. I'm your host, founder and publisher, Uriah Kaiser. Today's guest is Shamgar Connors, a 14-year educator and coach who medically retired after kidney failure. He taught math and computer classes, coached a basketball and soccer team, spent a decade on Virginia's Eastern Shore, and nearly 4 years in Prince William County. He's a local parent with a son in public schools and an uncle to another student in Stafford schools. You may know him for his satirical, costume-based remarks at Stafford County school board meetings. In this interview, we're going to find out why he shifted from conventional testimony to theatrical satire, his critique of Stafford's non-discrimination policies and student bathroom access, alleged classroom disruptions and parent-teacher concerns and what he says he's hearing, his outreach to the Virginia governor and lieutenant governor and the response that he cites, and the change he wants, bathrooms by sex at birth, and what would stop the costumes. That interview and more next.
This podcast is powered by PotomacLocal.com, your trusted source for local news in Fredericksburg, Manassas, Woodbridge, and the communities in between. Every day, we bring you the stories that matter most. From schools and government to business, transportation, and the people shaping our neighborhoods. Our mission is simple: keep you informed, connected, and engaged with what's happening right here at home. We can only do this with your support. Become a Potomac Local News member today and help sustain independent, community-focused journalism. Visit PotomacLocal.com to join and be part of the movement for local news that truly serves the community. That's PotomacLocal.com.
You speaking at Stafford County school board meetings, you've been doing it for a while, and you've been doing it very colorfully, right? You're the only guy who goes there in a unicorn costume. You're the only guy who goes and really makes a spectacle of himself the way that you do. So what motivated you to begin speaking out at Stafford County school board meetings?
Well, it's a couple things. One, some people are like, why don't you just try talking seriously, Shamgar? Wear a suit and just go there. Well, the problem is I did that for 2 years, okay? I tried talking to these people about how there's fights in schools. One of the big things I talked about was that teachers, you can't break up fights. It's if you haven't had this handle with care training, if you try to separate kids, even by touching them on the shoulder, that's technically violating the law and the rule, and you can get fired and lose your license. And I spoke about that, and I spoke out about a lot of problems. No one wanted to respond. I've reached out to Alyssa Hosted, who's supposedly a conservative in my area, and I think maybe she is, but the problem is I would try to talk to her and she's like, yeah, let's schedule time to talk. And then she'd keep blowing me off month after month after. And you're talking 2 years of this, right? And so eventually I was just like, okay, this is insane. These people, they do not care about what any parent says. Anytime I've been there, I've seen other parents talk. They just completely ignore it, right? Don't care at all. And the policies, it's 420-P and 4107-P for their diversity or their policies about the diversity, the gender identity, sexual identity,
non-discrimination policy.
Non-discrimination, that's what they call it, right? But the problem is when the way it's worded, it says you have to respect any child or employee's gender and sexual identity, whatever it is. So if they want to dress up as a furry, they can. If they want to identify, if a boy wants to identify as a girl and go in the girl's bathroom, they're allowed to. And legally, no one can do anything. I mean, I've had teachers tell me, hey, all these boys, girls go to bathrooms. Like, I can't even ask them, hey, what are you doing? Because then I'm violating their gender and sexual identities, you know? And that's the way it's set up. And it's a silly policy. And I'm literally handing them a free layup. I don't know if they understand this. I'm showing everyone visually what this policy allows in school.
You're a teacher, and I was going to get into this a little bit later and let you talk about your background. But let's talk about furries. I mean, if someone's out there and they don't have a kid in school, they don't, or maybe like for me, my kids are very young, right? So I haven't been indoctrinated into the furry culture yet, right? So what are these furries?
So the thing about furries is you can go if you look on Reddit, there's like r/furries and r/therian. It's kids that dress up as animals, and they actually believe that they are that animal, so they act it out. They'll crawl around on all fours. They'll bark, meow, hiss, even try to bite at the ankles of other kids. All right, like they act it out. And the problem is, it's their gender and sexual identity, so they have to let them do it. So what the furry does is they're disrupting class by crawling around and meowing and barking and doing weird things, licking their paws, whatever it is, right? And I remember, I was a teacher for 14 years before I had to medically retire because my kidneys failed, and because I had a tetanus shot to destroy my kidneys. But if I was teaching, like, how do you instruct class when you have a kid meowing and barking in class? You know that the entire class is going to stop doing whatever they're doing, and they're going to look at this kid that's acting like a dog or a cat or a wolf or whatever. And
did you have students in your classes that were furries and exhibiting this behavior?
Well, I retired, and it was like 2019, 2020-ish. So I was just getting on the tail end of when this started really popping off. But see, the problem is the country started celebrating and embracing and pushing forward mental illness, right? Now it's like, hey, you have anorexia? Great. We're going to come here and make your kid throw up at school and starve. Like, that's essentially what the policy looks like, by saying you have to respect anybody's whatever they want it, whenever they want it. It's absolute insanity, and it just leads to craziness. So the problem is, even if I was,
I don't know if that, I don't know, that's gender. I don't know if that, are you saying that is under gender, or is just non-discrimination policy as a whole?
Yeah, under non-discrimination policy, like, I'm just saying, like, I'm stretching it to its logical conclusion and saying, hey, like, if somebody wants to say, I have this idea about what I have to do for myself, all they have to do is claim it's my gender and sexual identity. Well, now that means, because it's school policy, the school has to just respect it and say, okay, yeah, do what you want.
So for you, is this just about is this boys and girls bathrooms and vice versa, or is there more to this that has got you engaged in this fight?
About it. And that's also that was like the main point. When I first started doing this, I was dressing up as LGBTQ and talking about how I identified as a transgender Olympic swimmer, and I had on the rainbow floaties and the pink snorkel and the pride cap, and I said how great it was that Stafford would let me use whatever bathroom I wanted, because that is what the policy says, and it's actually happening. It's not like I'm just making this up. Okay, so it's all together in their non-discrimination policy. It's all bundled in: the boys and girls bathrooms, the furries, the tranimals, which I say furries are trans animals. I call them tranimals, but so it's all bundled together of why are they allowing this in their policy. And
so you say it is happening, and you did say earlier that the parents are contacting you, right? So tell us, what evidence do you have to show that it is happening?
Well, and I have two nephews, and then they go to Margaret Brent. They came home the other day and told me that there's a furry in their school, in elementary school. Okay, they're coming home. They're like, yeah, she's meowing and hissing at us and doing weird stuff and crawling around. This isn't elementary school. Okay, and the problem is, if you go on r/therian, you can see parents commenting, hey, I want to embrace my kids' therian furry lifestyle. How do I help them so they can act like this all the time? Like, these parents, they're pushing this on their kids instead of just saying, hey, you need to not act like an animal.
When you say r/, was that a website?
It's a Reddit
site.
Oh,
Reddit. Okay, so it seems like all this hovers around Reddit.
A lot of it does. A lot of it's there, and then there's other forums and places online and remember, these kids are like habitually, chronically online nowadays. And I don't think a lot of people that are older understand just how much these kids are online every second, and they're being indoctrinated by this stuff and TikTok videos, YouTube shorts, and they're just scrolling. You're talking, they're probably watching thousands of these a day. And so I want to ask you about the proof that you have that girls are using boys' bathrooms, boys are using girls' bathrooms, because
I sat in an interview with the superintendent, Daniel Smith, and I asked him shortly after the Trump administration sued the school districts north of here, Prince William County, Loudoun County, Fairfax County, over their alleged violations of Title IX and allowing for, the gender use of bathrooms. I asked Smith in Stafford County, though they weren't sued, do you address this policy? Do you feel like you guys need to address your policy here in Stafford County? And he says, no, we don't have that problem. So what evidence do you have to the
legal answer? But the problem is there's groups on Facebook, like there's Citizens for Stafford, and there's parents commenting all the time about how boys using the bathrooms, the girls' bathrooms, and how there's furries in the schools. You have multiple parents commenting, but I mean, this is public too. Anyone can join the group. There's a Facebook group called Stafford Talk 2.0. I've been posting my stuff in there. Parents are commenting, yeah, this is happening. This is happening to my kid. And then I have parents commenting and saying that they've emailed the school board. They've emailed the superintendent. They've emailed all the people on the school board. None of them will respond when they say, hey, this is happening to my kid. What are we going to do about it?
You talk about parents have emailed the school board. You have emailed the governor and lieutenant governor. So
Right.
Talk to me about why you sent that email and what response did you receive?
Yeah, so I emailed the lieutenant governor and the governor's office, and I reached out to all these people, right? And I said how boys are using the girls' bathrooms in schools. I also took screenshots of the school board policies, 2420-P, 4107-P, and I emailed the policies and I said, hey, this is what is happening, okay? And then they wrote back to me and they told me that, hey, here's the laws. They said Stafford is violating the 2023 model policies in the Code of Virginia 22.1-23.3. And they wrote that back to me. Now, Maureen Sigmund didn't know that they wrote that back to me. I said it in my speech. I didn't read the whole thing. I did read what they're violating. And then at the end of her school board comment, she tried to say that, oh, don't just listen to AI and Chat GPT and Google, contact us. Yeah, so they can manipulate it. No, the governor's office told me they reviewed it and that Stafford is in violation. That's what they said in their email to me. So when I see the laws and they gave me the links, they gave me the PDF links, they listed the laws that they're violating. And I've seen other schools, even super woke Spotsylvania, when they had the conservatives in charge, they changed the bathroom policy saying that you have to use the bathroom according to your sex at birth. And that's in Spotsylvania. So Stafford claiming we're just following the law. That's what they keep saying. They're not. They're pushing some woke agenda. Because if they were following the law, they would change it to follow what the governor has told me, and they would change it to something like what Spotsylvania is doing, because Spotsylvania hasn't been sued, because Stafford keeps saying, "Oh, we're going to get sued if we change it." No, you're not. Because
so after they wrote you back, what did the governor say? Okay, we're going to send in a team to investigate what's happening, or we're going to put the attorney general on this, or did they just encourage you to do something else? What happens next?
He said I'll read. He said that. The local school boards and their members that elect not to adopt policies consistent with those released by the department for the upcoming school year assume legal responsibility for non-compliance. You may wish to seek legal counsel if your children are impacted by the actions of your local school board. And then they gave me another email to respond to, the constituent.services@governor.virginia.gov. And then I have other contacts for other people, and I'm going to continue talking to these people. I think they're thinking about coming to the next Stafford school board meeting. They were talking about that like they just did in Prince William. And so,
and I think they also encourage you to go and address your school board about this. Was that in their letter as well?
Yeah, it said, please continue. It's important to keep speaking out at public forums, communicating with one another, to ensure the best decisions are made for children in your school district. So they
encourage you to keep going back to the school board. And
Right.
Yet now, which brings me to my next question for you, the school board has sent you a letter saying that when you come before the school board during citizens time, which is a time during the public portion of the public meeting where any resident can come and speak their mind for us, I believe it's like 3 minutes. And now they're telling you, if you don't clean up your act, if you don't start acting more professional, then you may not be able to go to these public meetings anymore. So talk to me about this letter that you received from the chair, Maureen Sigmund, and your reaction to it.
You know, it's funny. Let me give you a little backstory. So I saw Maureen at the GOP meeting on Monday the 8th, right? And I'm walking out the door to leave, and she's like, bye, see you tomorrow, all happy like, right? And I said, yeah, it's going to be great. See you tomorrow. Like, she was all excited that I was going to go because she knew I had already signed up online. So she saw my name on the sign-up list for speakers, right? Well, I go, and then I do the whole unicorn thing, the therian unicorn stuff. And then I get a letter in my mail on Saturday, and it's an intimidation legal letter. Now, there's no demands because they can't legally demand. They know they can't legally demand because I have First Amendment rights, but they're trying to scare me, saying, oh, you gave a comment with a stuffed unicorn between your legs, and at one point you made a hee-haw sound. Yeah, I said my pronouns are hee-haw. So wasn't it bigoted when she said, dear Mr. Connors? Oh, what a bigot. She should have said, dear hee-haw Connors. The problem is, I'm just highlighting the hypocrisy. If their policy will allow for kids to do this, then you don't get to tell me, hey, you can't do it, right? And then she admits that there's attendees in the audience that stood up and turned their backs to me during comment period. Well, isn't that them breaking decorum? Those people are supposed to be respectful of my time, okay? They're not supposed to stand up and make some protests. They're supposed to sit there and be respectful, just like I am. I hear a lot of people say stuff I don't like, but I just sit there and say, whatever, cool. They have the right to say it. Who cares? Okay. And the only reason they're doing this, I believe, this is my opinion, is that they're getting a lot of questions. People are like, hold up, what's going on? Because they're seeing it. You know, it's being shown in their face. Hey, this is a possibility of what could be happening in your schools right now. And they're fine, and people are like, "Wow, okay, well, we need to do something about this."
Well, there's a quote that I always go back to, and it is, "Humor can get in under the door, while seriousness is still fumbling at the handle." And so let's talk about your approach, right? The costumes that you have, what you wear. It is theatrical. It is satirical. And you clearly are modeled in the guise of a guy named Alex Stein, who has made it his business to go to public bodies in localities across the country and call out what he sees as hypocrisy at public meetings, and oftentimes makes jokes of the sitting members of the boards. And the boards that we've seen on these videos that are posted to the internet, the members don't like that. And so that apparently that is what is happening here in Stafford as well after you have done that. So how do you view these performances? Are you intentionally trying to tick people off? Are you intentionally trying to make them mad?
I'm just trying to highlight the hypocrisy. The problem is, here's the real rub of the whole situation. If they weren't doing ridiculous things, I wouldn't have any material to work with, right? I mean, that's the reality. Let's say they fix this policy. What am I going to do? Dress up as a unicorn and say, hey, I'm just ridiculous? Like, the only reason this works is because these policies are so ridiculous. And I'm friends with Alex Stein. He follows me on Twitter. He shares my stuff, and we talk often. He's a great guy. But I've been talking to him for years before he even got famous. But it's like he calls it culture jamming, and I call it the agree and amplify method. I just take what they say and say, that's great, let's do it on the massive scale that this policy says it will expand to. And it's the same thing I was doing in Spotsylvania for their crazy policies and stuff. And that's what gets the attention. And I'm not trying to I'm not hoping I'm going neener, rubbing my hands together. I can't wait to get everyone mad. I'm just saying these are things that are wrong. And people go up there and talk normally about it. They're wearing suits, they're wearing ties, and then they're speaking, and they get no response, nothing. They get zero attention. No one's watching it. No one cares. And that's the problem. Like, people need to understand, it's like that Batman movie. No one cared who I was before I put on the mask, remember? But that's the reality, man. It's not. And these costumes, like, what's funny about the unicorn thing, I remember I went to like a Goodwill years ago and I saw this unicorn hat, and it was on sale for like $1. And I was like, oh, this would be funny for me to get my daughter. And I just kept it. It just sat on the shelf. And then one day I was like, you know what? I should just do a whole costume based on this. And it worked. There you
are. So finally, what's next for you? Where do you see this going? What do you envision here? You know, if we look at the next 6 months, what do you want the board to do? You know, if they don't want you, you know, coming to the board meeting the way that you were coming to them, and you're saying you're not going to stop. This is what works for you and what gets you attention. What do you want the board to change so you will do something different on your end? What needs to happen?
All they have to do is fix the policy, change it to like something like what Spotsylvania has. Stop allowing this insanity to be a possibility. Okay, they can get up on their podiums and speak from their ivory towers down at all the plebs and peons that they think they rule over. But the reality is that they need to stop this from being a possibility at all. Okay, change the policy. Make sure it says you have to use your bathroom based on your sex assigned at birth. It's that simple. And that's all it has to do. That's why I said this is the easiest layup of their life. They could literally say, you know what, Shamgar brought it to our attention. He's right. This kind of stuff with the way the policy's worded, it's allowed in schools and we need to change it. But they don't want to do that. They're prideful and they're filled with hubris, and they would rather write a letter to me intimidating me without even trying to contact me, right? Without even trying to speak to me at all. Just, hey, you better shut up and leave us alone, or we're going to show you how strong we are. By the way, Maureen with this letter had to use taxpayer dollars because she had to contact attorneys to write this letter to me. So I hope all the taxpayers like that she probably spent around $2,000 writing me a letter saying I can't eat candy hay on when I'm speaking. Like, that's stupid. It's complete waste of money. It's insane. And that's the thing. If I was on these school boards and I saw someone dressing up in something, I would love it. I would think it's great, even if it's someone I disagreed with. I just appreciate the effort.
So you've shown the unicorn costume. Do we have any other costumes coming up that you want to talk about? Maybe with some other, costumes that we can look forward to.
I have an idea for next school board meeting already, and there's a board of supervisors meeting today at 5. I'll be going to that. So if anyone wants to watch that one, I'm going to make sure I bring and talk about this letter. And I'm going to have to go as my true furry therian self and crawl up to the podium, because when I'm in that costume, I can't help but it's my shift into my wolf stereotype, and I have to just act like a wolf. It just comes out of me. That's, by the way, me saying that sentence is actually what these people think and say. That's where I got the material. So I'm just copying what they actually believe. Okay, and because when I say it, it sounds funny. I'm just making it up. No. There's kids and adults out there that actually really truly believe this and act on it in real life. If anyone wants to look it up, there's a school in Utah that had a walkout because they had so many kids and furries. They were biting at the ankles. They were using deodorant and spraying at kids, calling it anti-human repellent in the schools in Utah. There was a walkout. All the kids were standing outside. Yeah, because the policies are insane. You can't get learning done like that. You can't. And there's enough problems in these schools already with discipline where they're getting away with everything. Like this doesn't. Let's put out this problem, and then you can focus on the other ones.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to add before we stop recording?
No, just I want to thank all the people that have supported me and the people that have reached out to me and told me what's going on. I think there's a lot of teachers and stuff. I think they're too scared to even bother telling the school board what's going on because they're worried about retaliation. Because look at the letter I just got. They know they will be retaliated against if they dare to confront these woke policies because of someone go to Dr. Elizabeth Warner's Facebook page and look at her comments. Look at how rabidly leftist she is. And she openly hates Trump and says she dislikes all of his supporters as well. Feels sorry for him. Okay, well, that's over 50% of Stafford. I think it's way more than that. But how can you trust someone like that to do its best for your child when you know she hates you and hates your kids? Just look at the Charlie Kirk thing. These people hate us. They hate us, and they celebrate when we're hurt or anything bad happens to us. They celebrate it. So I can't trust these people. I wouldn't. And that's the thing. Remember, I have a son that's in the schools, and I have nephews that are in the schools. Okay, so I'm vested in this.
Well, we thank Mr. Connors for coming on the podcast. If you have a comment about what you just heard, you want to tell us what you're hearing and what you're seeing in public schools in our region, please comment below. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel so you'll always be notified of new podcast posts. You can also subscribe to our daily news email at potomaclocal.com. It is free, and we send all of our news, all of our local headlines, all for free to you by email every day. Go to potomaclocal.com and sign up for our free email newsletter. We'll be back soon with another episode of the Potomac Local News Podcast. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day.